Hello, I'm Scott Wired, Chairman of the Advisory Board of the Salvation Army of Washtenaw County. I'm here today with some of my colleagues from the Salvation Army to talk a bit about who we are, what we do, and how you can take part in helping us provide essential services to those in need. The Salvation Army is an international movement and an evangelical part of the Universal Christian Church, dedicated to serving people in need without discrimination. We are here to help everyone from all walks of life, regardless of their race, religion, or lifestyle. We have served the whole of Washtenaw County for more than 100 years, and we are committed to making a lasting impact on the lives of those we assist. Through our various programs, we seek to address the physical, mental, and spiritual needs of those we serve as they strive for greater self-sufficiency. Some of our essential core services include a food pantry at our Ann Arbor Core Community Center, character building and summer camp programs for youth, emergency and disaster relief, utility assistance and eviction prevention, and weekly worship opportunities. Volunteers are the backbone of the Salvation Army, so I will turn the floor over to Major John Williams to talk to you about ways that you can get involved.
Well, Scott, around Washtenaw County we have over 40 different sites where we have volunteers ringing the bell. Anywhere from Saline up to Dexter over to perhaps Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and Whitmore Lake is another place where folks can volunteer. At each one of these locations there are 2-hour segments that are available for folks to sign up. They can sign up and volunteer in those segments and ring the bell and be able to bring attention to the fact that we have a lot of needs in the county that need to be met. This year the need is greater than ever, and we've set a goal for the kettle ringing program at about $300,000. That's a huge goal, but there is a huge need in this county. So I'm asking the audience today that they might find a way to be able to go out and volunteer a little bit this year and ring that bell for folks, and remember that they're ringing the bell not so much for the Army, but for those neighbors that have lost their jobs. That single mother who now finds herself without a home because she couldn't pay for her light bill and her heat. They're also ringing the bell for the people who are maybe living under a bridge somewhere and are homeless. And so every time we ring that bell, we want to remind people, when you're going into that store ready to buy something, we're standing there ringing to remind you that perhaps you could put a little change in the kettle. We always say change in the kettle means change in someone else's life. It makes a big difference for them.
And John, I'm sure that this year, with the economic hard times that the state and the region are going through, that there is plenty of unmet need.
There is a lot of unmet need, and unfortunately this year we're seeing a lot more people who last year have put money in the kettle, this year have asked for help from that same kettle. And so we've made opportunities available for them to be able to get in front of the line, so to speak, to be able to get applications and to be able to meet their need. And one of the ways that we do that is we have a toy shop program where we are collecting toys right now in the community. And folks have signed up and will be escorted through our toy shop to be able to select the gifts just for their children. So instead of handing them a toy that we think is appropriate, we have a nice program where those parents can be escorted through and actually pick what they want for their children that Christmas morning.
And our toy shop operation is also staffed by volunteers, is it not?
It is. We have quite a number of volunteers that are helping us this time of year, but we never have enough. So I want you to know, and the audience to know, that there are plenty of opportunities to volunteer with the Salvation Army.
So for people who, for whatever reason, may not be able to stand outside and ring the bell for us, we do have inside opportunities where they can help serve the community as well.
We do. We have some clerical opportunities. We have some opportunities to help us be able just to negotiate, in the kettle program, the sites, the locations, and then in the toy shop, sorting of clothing, sorting of food items, and then also with the toy shop itself.
I know from past experience that if someone has just a couple of hours of time, that certainly bell ringing is one of the easiest ways to become involved. Are some of these other opportunities a one-time, short-term commitment as well, or do people need to be available for a long period of time?
No, the beauty of our ability to use volunteers is that we have about 2-hour segments in any one area that we're working in, so we're able to adapt really to your schedule.
So we can really use a couple hours of virtually anyone's time to help out our organization as we try to meet the needs of our community and those who are just less fortunate than us at this time.
That's right. I think that you could find in any kind of work schedule that we are available most of the day and most of the evening this time of year. You'd be able to find a couple hours in the evening to help us out. We could sure use that.
Well, that's excellent. Is there any specific needs in addition to bell ringers or volunteer workers, specific needs? Always we're able to accept and more than willing to accept cash donations. Any other specific needs that you can think of that we could use at this point in time?
Well, I think that volunteerism is a main part of what we're in need of right now, and that's because of the amount of donations we receive from the community. And by the way, I have to say that the Ann Arbor community, the Washtenaw County area has opened their arms right now and giving of gifts for the toy shop and are doing very well. And we're seeing some improvement in our kettle program right now. But we're a little bit worried, a little nervous right now about the economy, and maybe people won't be free to give. But I can tell you any small amount that you can put in that kettle will go a long way to help in our program, to help people.
That's very true. And this is your wife, Diana, and yours first community, or first season of Christmas here with us in the Ann Arbor community. We're glad to have you on board with our operation and hopefully finding things to your liking. And I know that we've got a great community. We've got some great volunteers. We're going to be talking with a couple of them here in a minute. But welcome to the Ann Arbor area.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. We moved here from Flint. And Flint was a challenge that we enjoyed and loved to work there, but the work here has been very, very fulfilling. And the community has been very kind and very welcoming. And pretty soon you won't have to call me new anymore. I will feel like I'm truly part of the community very soon. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, we're also very fortunate to have with us this evening a couple of our active community volunteers, and they are our honorary co-chairpersons for our bell ringing campaign this year, our Red Kettle campaign. We have Mr. and Mrs. Burt and Sally Lampkin. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Scott. We're indeed honored to have this honor as the honorary chair, and I cannot help but remember an opportunity that when I was a little girl that my mother talked about with the Salvation Army, and it had to do with the missionaries. My mother and dad were from Ireland, and the missionaries that went from Salvation Army. And my mother impressing me with the fact that this was a wonderful organization and one that indeed served many, many people. Our church has been a part of the volunteer bell ringing for almost 20 years now. And we're very pleased that this happens to be our week. So our volunteers are almost done, 8 o'clock.
They're ringing right now.
They're ringing, all right.
All right.
And we've had probably 50 to 60 people that are involved from the
Well, that's
church.
tremendous.
Yes, we're very, very pleased with this. And you know, their response is so great because they'll say, yes, we were there to do a little bit of help ringing that bell, and it was cold and uncomfortable for an hour or so. But what they got from the response from people was pretty amazing. You had that happen last night, didn't you?
Just last night, I was ringing at the Kmart at Maple on Maple Road, and it was definitely a good feeling. Not only that the other fellow and I had as we were ringing the bells, but of the spirit of the people that came up and met us and smiled and gave.
They said one of the things that some of our folks have commented on is the people who bring their kids but want their children to understand why they want to put that money in the kettle. And they stand there and explain to their children that this is going to help someone else. And oftentimes you look at those folks and you think, maybe they could have used a little help too. It's a very gratifying kind of thing.
I had to smile last night, and I have that same feeling. Both Sally and I's careers have been with children in all of our lives, all of our careers in Ann Arbor. But one of the, and again, so impressed with the parents who are teaching their children how to give and stopping by the kettle and so on. And but one of the families that came by, the child tugged on the parent and said, come over here and give. And the parent said, oh, I don't have any change right now. And I thought, but you've taught your child, you've taught your child well.
That's how they should be thinking as they
That's
go by
right.
those kettles and those opportunities.
That's right. Well, Sally and I are members of the Ann Arbor Downtown Kiwanis. And so that's one of the other connections that we have that has had us work and be involved in the Salvation Army. And again, I know this is one small part of a very large operation, but it's still indicative, I think, of some of the different volunteer situations that you have. So on the 20th of December, the Ann Arbor Downtown Kiwanians are going to cover 16 different sites in the Ann Arbor area for a total of 7 hours, which will mean roughly probably 100 or more people in serving or ringing the bells for I think over 100 hours during that time. And so again, it's sounds like a lot to me. It's one small part, one example of what happens, but it is an example, and it's something that we feel good about as far as this particular organization.
Sometimes they sing, sometimes they play instruments, and sometimes they're just ringing and
wear some interesting costumes.
Yeah.
And
I'm happy to be there.
Having done it myself, it always impresses me the number of times that people who come up and put money in those kettles are people who've been served in the past, or who have friends or family who've been served in the past by the Army, and that's that legacy of caring and sharing that has instilled other people to continue to give even in these days. So, well, it's great that both of you are involved in groups in the church and the Kiwanis, but we still have plenty of individual volunteer opportunities as well. And as we come towards the end of this first segment, Major John, can you tell us a little bit about how people would go about volunteering if they've
Well,
got
one of the
that
ways
interest?
to volunteer would be to go on the internet and look up www.sawashtenaw.org. And on that website, you'll find a link to a volunteer site that we use to be able to sign up, ringbells.org. And you'll be able to sign up on there and see all the available slots, and you'll be able to go ahead and put yourself down to volunteer. You could also call our office and be able to speak to our office personnel and volunteers there that can set you up as well to be able to ring on a particular time and day. Now, our phone number there, and because I'm new, if I'm wrong about this, but it's 734-668-8353. That's right. And you can surely call them and sign up.
Right, and for the indoor opportunities like helping with the toy store and the clerical work, call that number as well.
The same number would be great. Also, those are posted on our website.
All right. Well, the opportunity to have you folks chair our campaign this year is certainly important to us, and we're very thankful that you've taken time out of your schedule. I was not able to be at the bell ringing and kickoff at Briarwood. I was up north deer hunting that day, and I think actually the weather was much nicer in northern Michigan on November 14th than it was at Briarwood Mall. But
it was a little wet.
I know you were there because I saw
cold.
your picture in the paper.
Scott, I think something we haven't mentioned is the angel tree out in the mall, which is a wonderful opportunity for people to pick up and some items, a name, an age of an angel, and purchase items that can be dropped off. I dropped mine off today. That's why I'm so smart about it.
That's great.
Absolutely, another great way to be involved in helping people in the community that are less fortunate. So,
Thank you, Scott.
well, thank you. Anything else, Major, that you want to say in this segment?
Well, I might say
We've
that
got about a minute left.
in regards to the angel tree, you'll find it in front of the Von Maur store in the Briarwood Mall, and you'll find a beautiful tree there with all kinds of tags on it. And the idea would be to remove a tag, buy that gift, and then take it over to Betty Brigade's store and drop it off. That's a beautiful setup, and those toys will go right into our toy shop.
All right there within the confines of Briarwood Mall. You don't have to go from one store to another and go outside to the car. It can all happen indoors. So, great way to help out as well. So, well,
And, maybe I should thank, right now, should be able to thank Briarwood Mall for being able to be in with them and partner with them this year and have a couple of kettle sites indoors with the angel tree. So we want to thank them for sponsoring us this year.
okay. Well, we're just going to hope that the weather holds throughout the season. And real quickly, how are we doing so far?
Well, we're doing Pretty well. We're holding our own right now in the bell ringing effort, and we're hoping that that just continues to increase and meet the needs that we've set up on the goal. So we're holding our own right now. I'm feeling pretty good at the moment.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to take a break here and rearrange the set. We're going to bring another one of our colleagues in to talk about our homeless shelter. But thanks again so much for coming out on a cold winter's night, literally here, and
Both of you.
telling us about your dedication to the Salvation Army. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back. And as we enter into this second segment, we've been joined by Mr. Ken Staples. Ken is one of my fellow advisory board members on the Salvation Army Advisory Board for Washtenaw County. Ken and his wife Mariana are also significant benefactors of the Ken and Mariana Staples homeless shelter, which is located just off Packard Road on the west side of Ann Arbor. And Ken, welcome and thank you for being with us this evening.
Thanks for having me here, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to both of you.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas to you and Mariana as well.
Thank you.
Well, tell us about your involvement with the Staples Center, Ken. And
Well, maybe just a little background on the shelter itself. In 1980, a group of 22 churches got together in Ann Arbor, and they wanted to address the homeless problem that they found at that time. These 22 churches got together. They asked the Salvation Army if they would run a shelter if they got financial support from the churches. In 1981, Arbor Haven opened as a overnight shelter. It's the first shelter in the Ann Arbor area, and it's still the longest ongoing and continuous shelter in Ann Arbor. The 22 churches came up with $30,000 to fund the project for the first year. And from that point on, the Salvation Army has been running Arbor Haven House. In 1991, it changed from an overnight shelter to a 24-hour shelter because the need was there. And then in 2002, we had the funds to, as you know, Scott, to buy a building out on Packard, which is now named the Staples Family Center. And we renovated that building, and we have a 36-bed facility, moved up from a 16-bed to a 36-bed facility, which is doubling the size. The shelter is a big part of the Salvation Army's helping program. It is an emergency shelter. We have families, we have single men, single women, children, and a few vets there.
And we can accommodate
36 beds,
36 beds.
36 people. This year alone, up until now, I checked today, and we served over 200 individual people have been through the shelter. That's individuals. That's not bed nights. That's individuals.
Right, individual people.
So, about 17 years ago, my wife and I were sitting around the office. We said, well, let's do something to raise a little money for the Salvation Army and get some PR for our company. So we started an auction. The first year we raised $5,000 for the shelter. After that, it just continued to grow. Last year was our 17th year that we've done the auction, and we have raised over $1.7 million. People have contributed and donated over $1.7 million. This year on October the 9th, which is the auction out at Kensington Court out by the Briarwood Mall, we hope to break the 2 million mark for funds raised and funds donated. And the community has been very good and very helpful in supporting the shelter.
This just shows, by the way, Ken, how much planning goes into an operation like that and how you and Mariana are so continuously involved. You said just a moment ago, this year, you're already thinking October 9th, 2009.
That's correct.
We're still closing out 2008, but I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought that was significant.
That's true.
How much
That's
background and energy goes into an operation like
But
that.
Mariana and I are sort of the out front people, but the thing that makes it work is just like the rest of the Salvation Army. We have volunteers.
Absolutely.
We have all of our staff is volunteers. We do have a small paid staff run through the foundation to home builders. But we have over 100 volunteers that help us put this event on each year. And if anyone wants to volunteer to help do that, we can, we've got room for volunteers there too. But we hope that will continue to be, raise the money. The shelter has a budget of over $500,000 a year because it is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week shelter. It never closes. And they have a full-time staff of 5, I think, a part-time staff of 3, and on-call staff of 2. And that takes a lot of money to run a facility like that. It's a very good program, and I don't know if you want to get into the program itself a little bit, but...
Well, we've got some time here, so let's, I think, Major, if it's okay with you, we can talk a little bit about the program. And because I think when people, sometimes their mental picture, even though they live here in Ann Arbor or Washtenaw County, the mental picture that conjures up of a homeless shelter is some run-down quasi-prison facility with a bunch of people that don't have anything to do except wait and come back in for the evening. And I know that's not what this shelter's about at all, Ken. So.
Not at all. It's as nice as my own home. It's amazing how the thing was put together. People have said, you know when you're in a shelter because you can smell it. I've heard people say that. When you go in there, no one says that. No one's ever said that. People have said to the contrary. If I may, I'd just like to mention one success story. Sure. Last year at our auction, we always have a person come. We try to have a person come that's been through the program. Last year we had Richard, who came and spoke at the auction. And Richard was a married man with 2 small children. He had some illnesses, and he ended up losing his home. His wife left him with 2 small children. And Richard, make a long story short, he ended up in the shelter. He was there for a short period of time, and he has these 2 little girls. One's 3 and maybe 5, or 2 and 4. And the cutest things, he came, and now Richard is out on his own. He has his own place. He's working. He's in a management program with one of the food service people in town, and just an excellent turnaround. A very good guy who's a nice guy, had a good job, but because of circumstances, he lost everything. But it's stories like that. We think of the homeless as people maybe on drugs and people that alcohol, and that's part of the homeless problem. But there's other people too.
There are people just due to the circumstances of life
exactly.
who end up in a situation that they wouldn't normally find themselves in. And again, that's where we extend our help, our hand, reach out to those people and invite them into our shelter to get themselves back on their feet.
That's right.
So how long can someone, like in Richard's case, obviously that wasn't just an overnight situation or a week or 2, so what kind of timeline can people be involved with our shelter program?
Well, I might say too, I'm filling in for Johnny Bass tonight. Johnny Bass is the director of the Staples Family Center, and she's ill tonight, so I got a call this afternoon, said, could you help out? I certainly can. It varies from time to time. We don't have a set period of time, but we call it an emergency shelter, and people can come in for a week, they can come in for 2 weeks, some people a month, some might take a little bit longer. People work. We encourage people to work, and we help them get a job while they're there. We help them save 85% of their earnings while they're there.
That's tremendous.
So that we save that for them. When they move out, they have a nest egg to get into an apartment, a condo, or something, or a home. And there's rules, discipline, everyone has chores. It's a very warm environment. Major, maybe you would like to say a little bit more about the environment. You know more about the details on that.
Well, I've been around in this division of the Salvation Army's Eastern Michigan, and we have 20-plus centers all over the Eastern Michigan area, and even my boss said to me, there's nothing like the Staples Center anywhere else in Michigan. It is that beautiful and that wonderful environment, that family atmosphere. And as soon as folks enter in, they are preparing a plan for their lives. They'll sit down with a counselor, prepare a plan, and begin to work on their options to improve their lives. So as soon as they come in, we're planning for their positive outcome, you might say. We're looking for supportive housing, we're looking for permanent housing, for jobs. And as you say, they have an investment in the quality of life there. So I don't think there's very many places like it anywhere in Michigan that is that fine of an opportunity. Now I'm talking about a living environment that gives some real dignity to a family, to have some private space, if you will, and the quality in the facility itself is just top-notch. And so we want to treat folks with that kind of dignity. And I'm just very pleased to be a part of that and to be a part of what Ken and Mariana have done to prepare a wonderful place for the homeless here.
It is a very beautiful facility and a very well-run operation over there. Are there volunteer opportunities at the shelter as well, or is that?
There are.
And
They're
what
always
types of things
needing
do we have that people can do?
Always needing people to help prepare meals, volunteers to drop off food, not clothing necessarily, but those are the two areas. And what we're trying to do is start new programs too, so we'll have people come in and just spend some time with the kids. A lot of times the kids' parents are so busy working and so forth, just take them to the park, take them to the zoo, take them for an afternoon to a ball game. Those are programs that we're trying to get started, initiated, so we have some more bonding with these kids and get a different feeling from the community and have some opportunities that they wouldn't other have.
Right, and that's a good point to emphasize. This is a family shelter, so we do have kids. We're not just dealing with the adult,
That's true.
homeless adults, but their families and children as well.
Right now we have 36 beds and they're full, and 18 of those beds are children right now. So that gives you an example. We also have the Veterans Haven of Hope that the Salvation Army runs, and that's a 9-bed facility, which is a separate facility entirely.
Right. Well, there we are again, working with people to help change their circumstances and changing their lives. And as we're in this season of the Red Kettle campaign, this is where that money to those kettles helps get into the community in a way that helps people's lives change, and we're a part of helping see that change come to pass. So money, volunteerism, 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 plenty of opportunities for people to pitch in, lend a hand, and help make a significant impact in the lives of the people in our community. So thank you, Ken, for pinch hitting tonight. I know that was short notice as well, and we had a very knowledgeable person, and fortunate to have a person who's put a lot of time and energy into this and can speak knowledgeably. The shelter program itself owes a lot of its success to you and Mariana's work, and the Festive Affair auction, which Ken has already mentioned, is next October 9th. If you're interested, you can call the Salvation Army office, and I think sign-up information on that will be on our website as well. It's a great affair, one of the premier fundraising charity events in the community as well. So thank you for taking the time, and thank Mariana for letting you come be with us this evening.
Well, we couldn't do it without all the volunteers.
Right. Well, on behalf of the Salvation Army, I'd like to thank you for coming this evening, and for you for helping us take time today to learn about the Salvation Army of Washtenaw County. It takes support of the entire Washtenaw County community to continue providing the critical service that help us change lives. Whether you make a donation of time or money, you are helping to create an impact in our community. We hope you will give us a call or visit our website. Again, that is www.sawashtenaw.org, and to learn more about how you can help our neighbors in need. Thank you again.